Welcome back, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, joined by your co-host, Jacob Boyers. Jacob, Kentucky keeps the slide going. They have lost 4 of their last 5 now, with a loss in Oxford. Fall at the hands of the Rebels 98-84. This team was down 23 points at halftime, and really just from the jump ball, it just seemed like they had no interest in being inside Oxford. It seemed like they just didn't want to compete. Like we said, 23 down at halftime. Managed to come back a little bit, get it down to 14 in the grand scheme of things, but no effort in the first half, really just dictated this entire game.
Yeah, 25 minutes as poor of effort as I've seen from really any Kentucky team I can remember. Just absolute laziness, no fight, no toughness, letting Ole Miss get whatever they want. And then as disappointing as the defensive end was, a lot of disappointing moments on the offensive side of the ball because guys just weren't playing hard. There was no cuts. Kentucky never led in this game. You were down 10, 14 minutes left in the first half, and when you had 7 points, it just never could get anything going. Ole Miss came out and out-physicaled us, and we just shut down and quit, and we quit early.
And something we kind of alluded to on the podcast before the game was how Kentucky was going to have the size advantage in this game. You would have thought, getting out-physicaled wasn't something that necessarily would happen in this game. You thought we would have the edge there. Just never materialized outside of Amari Williams. There was really no physicality from this team. Really just not sure what to expect going forward. This team shows you, they beat Tennessee in Tennessee and then fall to Arkansas at home and then Ole Miss. And, probably their last 5 games, this is 4 of the worst games they've played throughout the season. And you can see it, man. We just can't stay in front of anybody. If there's any sort of shiftiness in any sort of guards, or if big men can shoot, we're searching for answers, and I don't know if anybody has them.
No, and the toughness and effort are a huge part of that. I've talked a lot about Jimmy Dykes on here and how I don't really love him, but last night, everything he was saying was 100% true. He was there's a difference between just not being good at defense. You can kind of live with that versus not having a willingness to play defense. And last night, nobody had a willingness to even try to play defense. There was zero effort. It was constant just miscommunications, hands down, not getting out on shooters, not fighting through a pick and roll. And, how many times did we see a guy on the 3-point line catch a pass off a screen and both guys go to him initially and the guy just waits and, Andrew Carr and Robinson's the one I'm thinking of off the top of my head. Then they both just back up. Yep. And it's, a 3-ball wide open. Those are elementary mistakes that just should not happen. And, I get it. This team's not good defensively. I don't think they can stop anybody. I've said it all year. We're going to have to win games by outscoring opponents. But, this team's also not good enough to just play lazy. You're not talented enough. You're going to have to fight. You're going to have to cut hard. You're going to have to fight through screens when other teams are setting them on you. And there's just last night was just zero effort from every single player that touched the floor for the first 25 minutes.
And speaking to that, the part that kind of frustrates me the most is how many fifth-year guys we have, how much experience we have, and the constant miscommunications that we have on the defensive end. I don't understand. We even tried to go into zone, and they had, back-to-back open threes as soon as we flipped into a zone. Just throughout this game, you could see Pope was trying things, tried different lineups. Just nothing we were going to, especially in the first half, was resulting in stops. Wide open threes. Whoever wanted it had a wide open shot. Basically, their shot chart looked like our dream shot chart. Lots of open threes, not really contested twos either. You saw that start to change a little bit in the second half, but, give Ole Miss credit. They were just knocking down tough shots in the second half. It's really, thought you were going to be able to come back, and every time you did, Ole Miss just drilled a 3 in your eye or had a contested and one finish. Just never able to get back in this game. I did like that you saw the defense change a little bit, but I don't know what's going on with this team and the slow starts that we have and why we can't take some of those halftime adjustments that we have and use them in like the under 16 timeouts, the under 12 timeouts. You know, there's a media timeout coming every 4 minutes. We've got enough assistants on the staff to be able to have something drawn up that we don't have to wait until halftime. I don't know if that's something that you've been looking at just on your end, but I'm starting to get a little frustrated that there are no really in-game adjustments outside of maybe flipping to a zone.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I do agree with that point. Last night, I thought it was just purely effort. Like, you know, it's just effort not to, again, just to fight through screens and, close out hard. Like, there's times where they were, like, closing out without even putting hands up. Like, it was purely effort, and then you saw it early in the second half, too. I mean, the first 5 minutes of the second half, Ole Miss takes their lead up to 27 and it, is hitting a couple threes. I do agree down the stretch, like the effort got better and, I thought the defense, when it looked better, it was more just guys were playing hard and, Owe wasn't sitting there just ball watching and looking uninterested. Jackson Robinson wasn't looking uninterested. But when you play with zero effort for the first 25 minutes and get down 27, like, I don't care how hard you play. Like, the game has to go absolutely perfect for you at that stretch, and all it takes is Ole Miss to make a couple tough shots, and you're done. And so, like, you let it get to that point by just not playing hard for over 25 minutes of the game.
And this team doesn't have the athleticism to be able to come back from, not trying hard, not giving full effort on the defensive side of the ball. We don't have the makeup, athleticism, the speed, the hops, anything. I mean, really, we had one block in this game, and it was by Travis Perry, of all guys.
Yep.
Forced one turnover in the game.
Horrible.
I think they said it's, first time in the SEC since, 2000?
None at halftime.
None at halftime. Only one throughout the entire game. I mean, that just shows you Ole Miss was able to do whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted, even in the second half. And something, kind of switching course here. This offense cannot get the ball up the court. I mean, it's just nobody can handle the ball with any sort of pressure coming at them. And I don't know if there's an answer for it outside. We got to stop with the ball screen handoffs, stuff like that. Cause right now it's resulting in us getting no open looks, especially when we're not cutting hard. Like we talked about that pre-podcast. If they were going to win this Ole Miss game, they have to do backdoor cuts hard. They have to come off of ball screens hard. They're not doing that. They started to do that in the second half, and you saw it start to result in some easy buckets. And we were really able to move the ball around how we wanted. I mean, we scored, 53 points in the second half. So you saw that once we started giving it that effort, the offense really ticked up a notch. But I don't know how you can't get a bunch of fifth-year guys to not show effort from the tip. I mean, for most of these guys, this is going to be their last basketball they're going to play. I don't know if it's a coaching thing, not getting them ready. I know I heard Jimmy Dykes said they looked a little lackadaisical in the warm-ups and stuff like that, but I generally don't have answers.
No, and it doesn't sound like Pope does either when you listen to him after the game, but we'll come back to that. But I agree. As frustrated as I was with the defense throughout the game, my big takeaway was how lackadaisical they looked on the offensive side of the ball. Like, they just from the moment go, they had no interest in trying to match Ole Miss's physicality, Ole Miss's energy. Like, there was just nothing there. And I swear when we got that 10-second call, if I didn't have to do this podcast, I would have turned the TV off and not watched. It was so unbelievable. You're three guys, nobody coming to help Colin Chandler out. Before that, he's just slowly walking the ball up into a double team and just no urgency. I mean, we had 2 shot clock violations in the first 10 minutes. This team, this stuff should not be happening, And then it's back to the point of they're not shooting enough threes, but it's in part because they're not, cutting hard and coming off screens hard enough to get good open looks. I mean, Pope said before the season, this team needs to shoot 30 to 35 threes. I think I saw in every game other than 6 or 7, the other team has shot more threes than us. That's not a recipe for this team to be successful.
No, because you've seen the games that we've won. We have to score at the very least, it's the high 80s. It feels like is that threshold. I don't even know if when we play South Carolina on Saturday, if we score 85, if I feel comfortable enough in that to get a win, especially how many points we've been giving up lately. I mean, Arkansas just had their second most that they just got 89 on Saturday. Give up 98 to Ole Miss. Already given up 100 twice in this season. I mean, you see this defense is just – I mean, they're really – I don't get how the basics with this team are so problematic with how many guys have played so much collegiate basketball. That's what I was looking forward to the most with this team. We knew the trade-off. You weren't getting these like high-priced athletes. But I thought the trade-off was communication on defense, being able to, expect effort 24/7 on the court. And we haven't gotten that. And I don't know if it's a lack of leadership, if it's not coming from the top down from Coach Pope. I know Coach Pope's not necessarily thrilled with the job that he's doing. He said that in some of his post-game comments as well. I don't know if you have any thoughts on, just what you thought preseason getting out of these guys, all these veterans, and what you're seeing now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, like I said, I feel like it comes back to effort. Like, I don't expect this team to be good defensively. They're like, guys aren't going to just learn lateral quickness and stuff like that and pure athleticism overnight, right? To an extent, especially in the SEC, you got to be a good athlete to defend. Like, everybody's so quick. But to your point, like, I don't expect 50-year seniors like to just constantly be like caught out of position. I mean, when they played the 1-3-1, Andrew Carr had his back turned to the wrong side that led to an open three. Like, I mean, God bless his heart. I really like Carr. He's one of my favorite players on this team, but like, just like, you're a 50-year senior. That should not happen. Like, you should know. And then you got, Oweh's not giving you a lot of effort. I alluded to it. It feels like he's just constantly ball watching, and his guys are getting backdoor cuts that leads to, sometimes it leads to an Amari foul or, a situation just putting everybody out of position. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. And like, how many ball fakes can one team fall for? I mean, it felt like Ole Miss could have pump faked at the half court, and like we would have had three guys blow by the point guard, and like it was unbelievable. Just basic elementary stuff that's just not being executed.
And to your point, why do we go for so many ball fakes? We're not a good shot blocking team.
No, just stay down, get a hand up.
At least, stay on your 2 feet, athletic position, make them drive by you. Obviously, they're going to be able to. They have been all year, but at least make it, a little tougher on them. Don't give them that open look or just an open pass. I mean, I can't tell you how many just easy passes and ball rotations Ole Miss got, especially the first half, just because, like you said, we're sitting there ball watching. It's especially obvious with Ortega. I think I kind of pointed that out to you during the Vanderbilt game we were watching, just like how much he sits there and just like is not paying attention to the game at all or what's going on. And really, I mean, I hate to be negative on Ortega because he had 24 points in this game. But if he's not getting it going on the offensive side of the ball, he's giving you nothing on the defensive side of the ball. And right now, I mean, I'd pay this kid like $150 per pass that leads to an assist if he was able to. Because the amount of times that he's driving to the lane and he's doing, like, he's our best driver that we have on the floor right now. He's doing his job and getting there. He just will not pass the ball. I mean, there was a time Travis Perry was open in the corner. I know you and I had already talked about that. I mean, there's just so many times where we're actually getting guys to surround the ball, surround the rock, which is what we want to, especially when we have so many shooters on the floor. And he just refuses to pass out of it. I don't know if that's I know it is something you're seeing. We've talked about it, but I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Oh my God, dude. That first half, I mean, and I alluded to it on the, halftime reaction video that we posted on TikTok. But, oh my God, I visibly screamed at my TV. You're down 11. You were down, I think, 15 right before that. You're starting to kind of cut into it. Ole Miss finally misses a shot, and you come down and you got two guys on you as you're driving to the basket. Travis Perry wide open in the corner, who had already hit a three right before that. Wide open. I mean, if he makes that pass and kicks it out and Perry hits it, I mean, you're in an 8-point game. Maybe you get some energy back. Ole Miss probably calls a timeout at that point, and some of that momentum flips back. Instead, he tries to dunk over two guys. Doesn't even get anywhere close. Ole Miss comes down, hits a three. You're down 14 in the blink of an eye. And, like, it felt over right then and there. And then right after that, when you're still down 14, 20 seconds on the shot clock after an offensive rebound that went out of bounds, and he does a turnaround jumper with 2 guys on him. The second we inbound the basketball, there's 20 seconds left on the shot clock. What are you doing? One, like, I don't care if he's wide open. A mid-range jumper is not what we're looking for, especially from him. And you're going to do a turnaround with 2 guys on you? Like, I agree. Ortega, he had 24 points. He was a player early in the year. I said, there's a world he could be our best player, and like this team could still be really good. But just the energy defensively, and then the, just selfishness at time on the offensive side, it's killing this team.
It really is. And honestly, I don't want Ortega to be the leading scorer of this team. I feel like if Ortega is the leading scorer, and I don't want him taking 17 shots in this game like he did. I mean, he was still efficient, 8 of 17. The 3-point shot actually did look a lot better, even though he did miss an open one at a crucial time. 2 for 4 from 3. Was actually able to hit all of his free throws. But I don't think there's a world where we're a good team in the SEC or in the tournament if Ortega is going to be taking 17 shots a game. I'd love to see him in a role where, like Lamont tries to do, he's just a little shorter and can't, see the lanes as well. It's just being able to penetrate and looking for, like you mentioned, Travis Perry, looking for Jackson Robinson. We're trying to get these guys open looks because right now they're not getting them. And I think that's where a lot of these threes are going to come from. I think if we start to get Ortega's eyes open, I mean, sometimes he'll do he'll do like a little drop off to BG, Andrew Carr, or Amari. But he does not look for the kick out at all once he's down in the paint. And I really do think we'd end up getting 5 or 6 more threes per game if he was able to do that. And I think that would really take this offense to another level, especially if we can get Kobe Bryant some open looks. Because you see how hard he's fighting right now to try and get an open look, and they're just suffocating.
Yeah, and I mean, he's the best driver on this team, so I don't want him to stop doing it. But, like, he's got to look for that. And every drive is just head down. Head down, I'm going to the basket. It doesn't matter. Ole Miss or any other team could, the second he starts his drive, could collapse all 5 men to the ball. And he would still go up because his head's down. He's not really looking for anything else, and he's just going at the rim. He's got to get it under control. I mean, if he's got a one-on-one at the rim, I'm as confident as any playbook or any play in our offense. Like, I'll take that. But when 2 guys are collapsing to you, there's so many open looks that we're not getting because of it. But yeah, and then I'm going to continue to say it until I'm blue in the face, but like his effort on the defensive side, especially in the first 25 minutes, was laughable. It was ball watching, throwing hands up, almost blaming other guys when his man's making a backdoor cut for a layup, or getting pump faked and jumping off his feet, and just horrible mistakes. Ortega's probably the most frustrating one because he's got the tools to be a really good defender. He's your most athletic guy out on the perimeter, especially with Lamont out. He's got all the tools. We saw him do it in the non-conference. It was like I was saying about Amari early in the year. It feels strictly effort-based, and if he puts in the effort, he can be one of your better defenders on this team, and he's just simply not.
And you really need him to, especially we don't know when Lamont's coming back. And, I mean, without him, you have to have at least one guy you can expect to show at least capable on-ball defense. And he's that guy. And right now, with the effort that he's giving, I mean, there's a reason we just gave up 98 points to Ole Miss, and he was a big reason for that. Switching courses here. I mean, let's talk about the 4th triple-double in Kentucky basketball history. What did we say on the last pod? Amari's best game as a Wildcat, and it feels like he just keeps upping it game and game. And boy, did he not just do the exact same thing in this game. Triple-double, like we mentioned, 12 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists. I mean, 5 of 7 from the floor. I mean, what more can you ask from this guy? Especially these last 2 games. If you just say, like, Amari scratched in these we probably lose both games by 30 to 40. I think what Amari's giving you right now is just everything and more what you could have imagined when he came in from Drexel.
Yeah, I think I made kind of a bold prediction earlier in the year about Amari having a triple-double in one of those games, and, he had it. I'm going to have to go back and find the pod because I think you and Tyler kind of, laughed at me. So I'm gonna have to go back and find that and post it. But yeah, I thought Amari was your best player. Obviously, the triple double. It's hard to argue with. I did think, the first 5 minutes, I don't think anybody played well or played with any energy, him included. But I thought from that point on, he was better. He only played 25 minutes again. I actually wasn't like super disappointed in that last night, just because, again, like nobody was really giving you anything. Pope was trying everything he could just to make something work. But yeah, I mean, if you talk about a bright spot, it's obviously the fourth triple double in school history. I would be curious if any of the other three were losses. I know the Briscoe and Fox one weren't. So this is probably the first time it's ever happened. I wonder how many players in college basketball in general have a triple double and a loss. It can't be too many.
Yeah, I don't want to do that digging to find out. It'll just make me more sad than I should be. I mean, let's keep it going here. Jackson Robinson, another solid game I thought from him. 18 points, 6 of 13 shooting, 50% from 3 on 10 attempts. I mean, only gave you 2 rebounds, gave you 2 assists, and the only steal of the game that we had. I mean, Jackson's just doing what he's been doing for the past couple weeks. I mean, ever since that A&M game, this has kind of been the Jackson Robinson that you're getting. Would I love him to be able to handle the on-ball pressure a little bit more and, be a more capable on-ball defender? Absolutely. But when it comes to guys you need to give you 18 or do their role, I think Jackson's doing his role perfectly the past couple games.
Yeah, I thought Jackson was a bright spot. Again, like one kind of negative is just with him. I almost feel like either his energy is like 0 or he's kind of giving you all he can. And to start the game, I thought his energy was pretty poor, but again, after maybe that first 5 minutes, he was one that kind of picked it up. If he doesn't make a couple threes in the first half, you're walking into halftime down 30 plus. So, take what you get from him. He's been very steady, and unfortunately, the team success hasn't kind of come along. But I mean, really, since Mississippi State, he's been the Jackson Robinson that I think we all hoped for early in the season. I mean, 16 to 20 points, it feels like every game. Some games a little over 20. This is the guy, when we were talking earlier in the year about kind of being the guy he is. I still, like, every game I feel like I want to switch his shot attempts with Ortega. I'd much rather it be Jackson that's taking 17 shots, and I don't even care. Force a couple more threes. Even if they're contested, with the way Kobe Bray is shooting right now and everybody else, like, I'll take a contested 3, especially late in the shot clock with Jackson Robinson.
I will say, when it comes to contested threes, he's the guy I want shooting the most. Because even Kobe, when he's open, I mean, 90% of the time you think he's going to knock it down. Ainsley, even to that same effect. But when there's a guy hand in the face, it seems like the only guy who can make a contested jump shot on this team has been Jackson Robinson. He has been doing it a little bit lately. And let's go ahead and transition over to Kobe Brea. Played 30 minutes in this game, 10 points, 4 of 10 shooting, 2 of 6 from the field, 2 rebounds. It wasn't Kobe's worst game, but, I mean, you're also seeing that, like, we have to be able to get him open for shots. Yeah, he's not going to – I think that Tennessee game was a little bit of an outlier where how he was able to get his own shot, get a little downhill. But I think we got to start setting more off-ball screens. I feel like everything we do is through the dribble handoff. It's either going to be there's 2 guys coming off of that screen that we know at all times. I do think we got to work with a different set in this offense because even though technically the offense isn't the problem, we scored 84 points. We just know there's another level for this team to go to, especially if Kobe Bray is going to be getting open looks like he wanted to.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, I will argue a little bit that I do think offense was the problem, just simply for the fact that you had to score 53 in the second half to get to that 84. Like, the first half, the offense was atrocious. Like, honestly, the fact they had 31 is kind of surprising. I mean, like I said, it took a couple deep Jackson Robinson threes to get you over the 30 mark. But yeah, we gotta create to get Kobe some open shots. I mean, also part of it is he's just cold right now. Like that happens with shooters, but and what's cold, right? Like, he's still shooting 33%, it feels like, every game. He's going 2 for 6. So, like, his cold is, not the end of the world. But yeah, he's not a guy that's going to be able to create his own shot. You got to generate some offense for him. But he's another one, like, when things aren't going well offensively, like, I get it. He's not the best defender in the world, but, like, you can still play with some effort, It felt like there were a couple of times, again, where he's just kind of reaching for basketballs, that are rolling around the floor. Like, our guys, besides Trent Noah, and I know, obviously, we're going to get into him and the game he had, but, like, I don't see any of these guys diving on the floor. Jackson had a big one at one point where, he kind of just reached with his arm, and the player from Ole Miss was willing to make some contact and get on the floor. And, like,
Jackson's scared of contact. I think we can.
But, like, it's not just him. I agree. Yeah. But I feel like Kobe is too.
About the entire team is, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, Ortega will go get contact at the rim, but, like, that's really it. He's not, diving on floors and, getting on his knees for a basketball. So I would say it's all of them, and that's pure effort. I mean, that's the stuff. Again, day one of elementary basketball, when you're in first grade, what's your coach telling you? When there's a loose ball, you get on the floor. And, like, this team's just not doing it.
Yeah, before we transition and go into, Ansley and Trent Noah, we'll talk about them together. I just want to read you just some of the stats just from the team for the game. 50% from the floor, 48% from three, 73% from the free throw line. We out-rebound Ole Miss, and we have 21 assists to 8 turnovers, and you still lose that game.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like we're a broken record with repeating stuff like that. That happened in 3 of the past 4 games that we've talked about. Arkansas game, that happened as well. I mean, I know this team is not going to just miraculously get better on the defensive side of the ball. But you've got to find, at least, there can't be this many communication errors. Like, we might be at the point where we give up 82, 84 points a game, and you just have to know that you have to score more than that. But that other, 14 points, like you're mentioning, is strictly, effort-based. It's second chance points. It's a bad turnover and not getting back on defense. It's sitting there ball watching, trying to jump a lane. I mean, it's just, we have to cut out the mental mistakes if we're going anywhere. Because right now, I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit later, it's not a guarantee this team's making the tournament. Like, I know we have huge wins. I know that we probably only need 3 or 4 more wins to guarantee a tournament spot. But do you feel confident in this team getting a 7 or an 8 seed and playing, Auburn in the second round or Bama in the second round, a team like that? I obviously don't. Long-winded way to get back to Ansley Almanor. I mean, 15 minutes in this game, not a single stat. Nothing. Not a turnover. Not a point, not an assist, not a shot attempt, not a foul. I mean, I don't even really know how that's possible. Like, I know for a fact I would have given you a stat. I might have fouled out in that 15 minutes.
I'm at least giving you a foul.
Not having the lateral quickness, but to not only have one of those guys. We mentioned a little bit, maybe give Trent Noah a little bit of looks with his size and his shooting ability. Literally, as soon as we say that, he gets a full 13 minutes and does the exact same thing that Ansley does. Not a point, not a shot attempt, a rebound, an assist, a steal, a turnover, nothing. Well, I mean, you can't have 28 minutes from 2 guys playing in this game and just getting nothing.
Yeah. I got slightly a different take on it. Me as kind of a, the fat guy I am that doesn't exercise. Like, hats off to those 2 guys for going out and getting their cardio, because that was all they did on last night. Like, just running up and down the floor, like, for
a real Tony Snell minutes from them.
Yeah, like, just all cardio team. Yeah, I mean, it's laughable, to your point. If you're playing hard defense, you're gonna pick up a foul, right? You're gonna stumble your way into a rebound. Something. Like, if you're out there and you're giving it your all, there's something that'll come. They were saying, like, we've only had one player play over 7 minutes since the 90s that's done a stat line like this, and they couldn't find anybody that played over 10. And we have 2 in this.
7.
Yeah, and we have 2 in the same game. Are you kidding me? Like it's just it's purely effort. I don't care if you're on the floor for 13 minutes and you're trying. something will happen. You will grab a rebound. You will foul somebody. You will do something if you're in position and playing basketball. And the fact I can't put it into words. I don't know what to say about it. I really don't.
Yeah, and for all the negatives that we just thought there, I actually think the next three guys that we're going to talk about all had positive nights. I mean, let's just start with Travis Perry. He gave you 14 minutes, 5 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block on 1 of 2 shooting. And like we mentioned, he found himself open in other ways. Obviously, the ball just didn't get flipped around to him. I think you're starting to see, I mean, I'm not going to say a big shift in Travis Perry, but you're starting to see where at the very least he's a little bit more comfortable on the offensive end, where he's at least looking for a shot and feels capable of bringing the ball up in certain times.
Yeah, Travis Perry, I've never been, again, I kind of said it about Carr with the injury, but I don't get too critical of him because at the end of the day, he is just a freshman, and like we talked about a million times, we had to condition ourselves away from Cal and what a freshman actually is. He was the only guy in that first half recap that I did where I said I thought he played okay. He got beat a few times on defense, but with him, I at least didn't feel like it was effort. He's undersized and not the quickest. That's gonna happen, and part of it too is you can't throw them off on their worst guard because there's lineups where you're out there with Kobe Brea and Andrew Carr, and at that point what do you do? Somebody's got to guard one of the better players. So it felt like at times they were attacking him, and Chris Beard's a good coach. He's going to figure out ways to attack the weak links on defense. But at least with him, I didn't feel like it was effort. To your point, he got open probably a couple times that the ball didn't come his way. He made a 3 early in the game, and I thought all things considered he played pretty well.
Yeah, speaking of somebody who I thought at least on the offensive side of the ball played pretty well and was able to get you some rebounds when you needed them. Solheim played 22 minutes in this game. It's good to see him back. I don't know if that's for inching closer to him, potentially getting back into the starting lineup with these type of minutes. But Andrew Carr, I mean, a quiet 10 points, honestly. 3 of 3 from the floor, 4 of 6 from the free throw line, and gave you 4 rebounds in 22 minutes. I thought Andrew Carr was really good in this game on the offensive side of the ball and rebounding-wise. Obviously, I mean, you see it defensively. If Amari's not out there, every other big is just going to get kind of slaughtered. And unfortunately, that's where we're at with Andrew Carr. I wish I had a different take on it, but that's really that's where we're at with Carr's defense.
Yeah, I don't expect him to be good defensively, but it was nice to see him kind of look more like himself. I mean, obviously there's still some, rust he's knocking off. He's probably not 100%, but it was the first game where they didn't list him, questionable or anything. He gave you 22 minutes. To your point, played well, I guess, is what we can say, because I don't think anybody really did. But to have 10 points, grab a few rebounds, we're seeing him kind of, he's been rebounding a little better, even with the back issues. So, I mean, if you can get him fully 100%, I like where he's at this point of the season. It's just, I think, getting him fully 100%, and hopefully, Saturday he is, and he can be back in that starting lineup, and then maybe you're not relying on Ansley as much, and he can slide back into that role that we felt like he was most comfortable in, being one of the 7th, 8th man off the bench.
Yeah, I generally think this is really all you need from Andrew Carr for this team to be good. Obviously,
Right.
With the more minutes, the more stats are going to come. But when you brought him in from Wake Forest, you weren't expecting a average defender or a good defender at all. You're expecting, a big guy who could stretch the floor, give you a bucket when you need one. And, he's, like you said, he's rebounding a little better as of late. I mean, if I could sign up in 22 minutes for Andrew Carr to have 10 points and 4 rebounds, I'll take that, because we just know he's not going to really help you on the defensive side of the ball. That being said, I mean, talk about Brandon Garrison in this game. Some ups and downs in this game. I thought it was probably his best of his last 4. I don't know if that's necessarily saying much after the rants that we just went on Monday afternoon. But in this game, BG, 5 points, 5 rebounds on 2 of 5 shooting. Did have 3 assists with no turnover, so that was good to see in 14 minutes. What did you think about BG's afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously been very critical over the last few games. I mean, we spent what 15 minutes of the last episode really kind of ripping him. I mean, he didn't like blow me away or anything, and there's still a lot to be desired with Brandon Garrison in part because of his athleticism and like the promise that can be there. Um, I mean, I thought his effort was okay. I don't really know how else to describe it. I mean, he looks a lot better when nobody else is really giving you effort for, a full half and then some. So, but I mean, I didn't have a takeaway of like, wow, he had a really good game. I mean, he was obviously better than he has been over the last four. If you can tell me that we're going to limit him to, 12-ish minutes a game and he's going to give you that kind of effort, then I'm good. Sign me up.
Especially on the glass. We've been talking about how bad he's been rebounding as of late, especially per minute. So for 12 minutes or 14 in this game to get you 5 rebounds, sign me up for that for Brandon Garrison all day long.
And part of that too, like, it's not like Ole Miss is like some elite level rebounding team. I mean, they don't start a guy over 6'7".
Yeah.
So like, he had 5, but I mean, he's also was 4 inches taller than anybody else that was out on the floor when he was out there. So I just preferenced it, that's all.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Last guy we haven't talked about yet, Colin Chandler, goes from playing 20 minutes and being your best on-ball defender against Arkansas, which is a more athletic team, I would say, than Ole Miss, and then gets 2 minutes in this game. I mean, he has 1 shot attempt, but other than that, we were talking about another guy who would have had almost all zeros if he wouldn't have got that shot up. Yeah. I mean, I just don't know. I don't understand Pope, what he's doing right now. I know he's trying a lot of things, just throwing a lot of things to the wall to see what sticks. But, I mean, I thought Colin Chandler proved at least his defensive prowess a little bit against Arkansas, or at least the effort and the ability to try on the defensive side. To see him only get 2 minutes in a game where you gave up 98 points and we're just searching for answers on defensive end, I thought it was a bad move on Pope's part. I guess we'll see what he counters with Saturday at South Carolina.
I agree in principle. The issue with this game was, like, it was apparent, like, Colin Chandler couldn't handle the ball in this scenario, right? I mean, you saw it right away with the 10-second, and like, if you're playing a team that'll let you get the ball to half court, you can maybe run him out there, but like, if you're running him out there with, Kobe Brea and then either Jackson or Ortega, you essentially have one ball handler, right? And like in this game, obviously I thought, he would have been a good option defensively, but I think you saw it pretty apparent. Like, they weren't going to get the ball up the court having him as one of the main ball handlers, because you saw it on that 10-second call. They double Jackson right away. He has to give it up, and then Chandler just doesn't know what to do with the ball and slowly walks the ball into a double team, and then he's stuck, and it's 10 seconds. So I'll defend Pope on that decision a little bit. Obviously, you'd like to have him out there for the defense, but I just don't know offensively how he could have fit in this game.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I agree with you more on this one. It's just because, I mean, this is a 6'5", 6'6" kid who is not supposed to be playing the one at all. At no point should him coming off this Mormon mission be the guy who you expect to get the ball up the court.
I agree.
That's completely on Pope, just him being in that position in general. So I just think you just put like a double entendre with 2 Pope mistakes and kind of compounded them on Colin Chandler.
Well, I agree, but like, he was out there with Jackson. Jackson's your best ball handler right now. So like, what other lineup do you put him? Like, do you go Jackson, Travis Perry, and Chandler like that? Okay, maybe I could get on board with, but then you're running 2 freshmen out there at the same time that have both had their fair share of mistakes. I just think with the roster you have right now, when you're playing a team that's giving you a ton of pressure, I'm not saying Colin Chandler was the number 1 ball handler when he was in, but it was very apparent Ole Miss's plan, and you saw it on the 10-second call, force the ball out of Jackson Robinson's hand, and then you're out there with Kobe Brea, who's not a great ball handler, and Colin Chandler, who's not a great ball handler. So like, where do you go from there? That's my only point. Now, if Lamont's healthy and you play him with Lamont and Jackson and he's your, quote unquote 3, sweet, sign me up. But or even Kerr Kriisa. But I just think with playing him with Brea or Ortega, like you're just not having a ton of ball handling out there.
Yeah, where I'd push back on that is that, I mean, you just had 28 minutes of guys who are maybe an inch or two taller than Colin Chandler, and we didn't put any of that pressure on their plates, and
I
they
agree.
gave you 28 minutes of nothing. So
I
at the
agree.
very least, you're expecting Colin to give you effort on the defensive side of the ball. You didn't get that from Trent Noah or Ainsley Almanor, and they're roughly the same size. It's not like we're talking about, a 6'2" guard versus a 6'8" forward. You're talking about 6'5" to 6'7" or 6'6" to 6'8". It's not much of a height difference there. That's only where I'd push back. I just think Pope's finding ways to put, after probably his best game of the season defensively, I think you kind of want to reward that, especially in a game where you're getting torched and you have no answers. But I do understand what you're coming from and wanting to have another ball handler. I don't think there is another ball handler on the team to put out there. So if you can't handle the ball anyways, you might as well at least be good on defense to try and get something out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think you saw it with Travis Perry playing, near 15 minutes. Like, the pressure, especially in the first half that Ole Miss was putting on us, like, our guys just weren't ready for it. So you had to have your best ball handlers out there to at least give you a chance. But, I mean, I think that 10-second call was the switch in Pope's mind. Like, this is just not a game he can be a part of. And not necessarily saying you're wrong. Like, you maybe could have trotted him out there a couple other times to try some stuff, but I just think that's where Pope made kind of the distinction.
Yeah, I don't want to get back to the point of the cow leash where some guys would have, a 30-foot long leash and other guys have the, foot and a half.
Now, I do agree. Like, I don't get, like, how Trent Noah can play all those minutes at Tennessee and then not see the floor against Arkansas, and then he's back out there, last night playing 13 minutes. Like, I do get that, and then same thing, Chandler playing 17 against Arkansas and then under 3 here. So, like, I do get it. I just think there's so much with the injuries that Pope's just trying so hard to figure it out. But, like, at some point, you just got to say, these are my 8 guys right now, and I'm just going to run with those, and that's it.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, because I think over the past 5 games, you've been throwing stuff at the wall. It seems like, whatever worked at the Tennessee game, I don't even know if that was necessarily us that won us that game. We didn't score a field goal in the last 5 minutes. Tennessee just couldn't buy a bucket. So I don't know if that was necessarily a great coaching thing. Obviously, Coach let them shoot threes. They shot 40-something. That's what you would want Tennessee to do. You got to try something and stick with it and just see if the team can grow better together, lineups that play together. Because right now, with all this mismatching, all this, you have guys who have played like 15 minutes with these guys on the floor the whole season. Yeah. And now we're expecting them to go and be able to communicate at a good level. And I think that's where a lot of communication problems are falling on defense.
Yeah, I agree, obviously to an extent. Don't get me wrong, our starters have plenty of breakdowns in defensive communication as well, and they've played plenty of minutes together. But yeah, I do think grand scheme, like, you just got to grab your 8 guys, especially with Lamont out, and just say, these are my 8, my best 5 are playing 30-plus minutes. We mentioned it. I would like to see Robinson and Amari, barring foul trouble, play 35-ish, and just say, like, we're just going to go to war and, try to pick up some wins and, go from there.
Yep, and that's all I've got on this Ole Miss game. If there's anything that you want to go to before we transition to the South Carolina game on Saturday?
We can talk briefly how Pope hinted at to a lot of broken furniture in the locker room. So, it's very clear he's frustrated. And again, if you just listen to his post game, he sounds very lost for answers. So, he's obviously a very smart guy. One of the smartest head coaches, not just in regards to basketball, but just in general. So hopefully, he's got to figure it out. Like, I don't foresee Kerr coming back. Lamont, who knows? But, like, you better have a plan in place, and he's going to have to find a lineup that works.
Yeah, I will say, Jasper Johnston was in Lexington over the weekend. You think we can try and get him eligible real quick to try and get him out there?
I'd take it. And, you need something.
Yeah, I do wish, Coach does usually always say the right things. I do wish there was a little bit more emotion and you could kind of see some of that frustration a little bit more. Sometimes I think he's almost too honest to a fault where I kind of want him to not necessarily lie to us, but be like, yeah, there's a couple more things that we haven't tried that I want. Because right now it seems like he and the staff have as many answers as you and I do, and that's zero.
Yeah. I mean, I think probably behind closed doors he's a little more, passionate and fiery. But yeah, I mean, the guy's honest, so like I'll give him that. Like it's definitely, and part of it is just a change, right? For 15 years we got the coach speak and like
lied to our faces,
and then towards the end just the flat out lying. Like, so hey, part of it we begged Cal to be honest for years. We're getting 100% honesty because I think there are a lot of.
Play this week or no?
What's that?
You think Shaden Sharp will play this week or no?
Yeah, I haven't seen him. Or come out and watch him warm up, but yeah, I don't know. So it's nice to have the honesty. We just got to kind of get used to it and program our mind. But who knows? I hope he figures it out because we need to.
Yeah, we really need to, and especially for Saturday at Rupp Arena. South Carolina's 10-12, 0-9 in the conference, like you mentioned. And, we were talking about some of those games that they played. I mean, they're losing to teams like Texas A&M by 4, Auburn by a couple, Florida by a couple. They're staying competitive on all of these games. They just haven't found a way to be able to win it. This is a game that you've got to win, especially there's only, this game, the LSU, and maybe even the Vandy that you can sort of count as wins, and we've already lost to Vandy, so who could even count that one there?
Yeah.
But, I mean, South Carolina's averaging 70.5 points per game, giving up 69.2. This is a team, I think, if Kentucky's going to win this game, they've got to hold them under 80. I mean, you can't allow a team to consistently score 10 points more than they're used to. I think if Kentucky scores more than 80 and just plays with effort and just communication on the defensive side of the ball, I think they'll be able to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. If Kentucky comes out and plays with effort and plays fired up and inspired basketball, they'll win the game. This is a team you're flat out better than. As bad as everything looks for Kentucky, at the end of the day, I think Lenardi's got us as a 4 seed and we're 24th in the net. So, like, I get it. Like, we feel like the sky has fallen after these 4 of these last 5 games. But, like, at the end of the day, like, we're still theoretically a good basketball team. South Carolina's 90th in the net. Like, there's no scenario at home. You lost to the second worst team in the SEC last week at home. This team is significantly worse than that. You gotta take care of business. And again, I think if they just come out, play hard, play with effort, they'll have no problem. I mean, they could absolutely roll South Carolina. They could come out, play with the same level of intensity that they had at Ole Miss, and this can be a game with 2 minutes to go. So it's all about effort.
For the lack of a better phrase, I mean, this team just got to get their vibes right. I mean, now, you see it. This team's not having fun either. Looks like they had no fun in that Arkansas game, no fun in this Ole Miss game. Obviously, 2 losses, you don't expect them to have too much fun. But there was just no fire, nothing.
Yeah, you alluded to it. And I mean, when Jimmy Dike said it on the cast, like, it just came out completely flat, even in shoot around. He was like, there was no energy and it was very lackadaisical. So, I mean, that can't happen. And it's a noon tip in Rupp Arena. Like, it's not like you're going to have that crowd you had against Arkansas. Like, you're going to have to get some juice one way or another.
Yeah, or the crowd against Florida when that was a noon tip as well. Yeah. I mean, this is
a very bad team coming in.
Yeah, they're not bringing a bunch of fans and a bunch of nobody's traveling for the South Carolina game.
And you've lost 4 or 5. It's not like our fans are going to be eager to get there at 10:30 and pack the place an hour and a half before the game like they did last time. So like you're going to have to get your own juice, and Pope's going to have them fired up. I mean, again, part of it is a noon game, and that does worry me with the effort because. Again, like I just think if we play with effort, we can beat this team by 15 plus easily. But if you come out and it's lackadaisical, you could be down 4 or 5 with 2 minutes to go.
Well, let's just hope. I mean, the last noon game we had was Florida. We scored 106. Let's hope the offense takes that same trajectory. I don't want to see him giving up 100, but I'd love to see his team go out and score 106. A couple guys to watch for the Gamecocks: Colin Murray Boyles, scoring 15.5 a game and averaging 8.8 rebounds per game. that matchup between him and Amari, I think, are going to play really key. It's going to be the first time Amari's really gotten tested by a big physical big in quite some time, probably since that Georgia game. And then Jamari Thomas, 13.2 points per game, shooting 38% from three, which you can't give these guys open threes. I mean, that's the way we've lost a lot of these games. I mean, think about how well Arkansas shot from three, how well Ole Miss just shot from three. I think just playing solid perimeter defense, not allowing a bunch of offensive rebounds, and just playing your brand of offense, I think this team should win pretty easily.
I agree. I mean, if we're gonna hop into predictions, I'll go ahead and give mine, but I'll say the Cats by. I'll go 16. I'll say 90. What that would be 91-75. I think if the effort's there, then we should be able to breeze. And this time for MVP, I'll switch it up a little. I haven't taken him in a while. It's not going out on a limb by any stretch, but I'll say a huge game from Jackson Robinson. I could see him having 25 plus here.
Wow, way to take the plus odds and a real long shot there, buddy.
Yeah, I haven't picked chalk in a while. I've been grabbing guys like Kobe Brea and whoever else, trying to will them to have a good game.
I hear you. Unfortunately, I don't see the game going quite that well for the Wildcats. I do have a score near what you do, a little bit more. In fact, I have us going 92-87. I don't know if this defense is going to be able to keep them within that many points. I'd love to see it. I love them come out here and just almost kind of like get revenge for the South Carolina football game that we had. Give them the little beatdown that we had.
Well, the last time you asked, yeah, I mean, I don't know. You asked for the football team to emulate their performance on Tuesday, and that didn't go well. So maybe we just
hey, I don't want them to emulate the football team's performance. We got smacked against South Carolina, so I'm not asking for that same thing again. If I had to go MVP,
you mentioned it about Vandy too. I'd hate to throw it out there.
Yeah. I know.
You said we would avenge the Vandy
law. Trauma that's building up in here, and the basketball trauma is starting to tickle in a little bit too. I really thought I released the cage on all that basketball trauma once Calipari left, but a little bit starting to creep back in with the football stuff. But if I had to pick MVP for this game, give me. I don't even know. You already took Jackson. It's an easy one. I kind of hate you for it because I was going to do it.
I haven't taken him in a while. You can suck it up.
I want to go with Amari Williams, but I do think this is going to be one of the bigger tests that he's going to have so far this season. Go ahead and give me Kobe Brea.
There you go.
Hopefully he just gets going from three. Hopefully we start a little new offensive sets, getting more off of like true ball screens from the baseline, less of the dribble handoffs. Hopefully that gets Kobe going, and hopefully we just get some stops. That's really what this team needs.
Yeah. So real quick, we don't have to dive into it or go game by game, but 9 games left. You got Tennessee at home, at Bama, at Oklahoma, Auburn at home, at Missouri as part of those 9. Just quickly, how many do you think this team wins?
4. I'm not going to tell you which 4 because I'll probably be dead wrong on the pick of the 4, but I think 4 and 5. I think it gets you into, the tournament. But
I think 19. I think 19 wins with this resume gets you in pretty easily. Yeah, I think if we only win 3, you're kind of sweating it. I'll go one better. I'll say 5. They'll find a couple games that surprise people, but who knows? Shoot, we might come out and lose Saturday. So
yeah, this team as we're speaking, even like some of the games that we thought earlier in the season were going to be, those layups. Missouri's taking Tennessee to the wire. It looks like they're about to lose down.
Missouri's good, really good.
So Missouri's really good. And let's just talk about their turnaround for a minute. Won no games in the conference last year. And this year,
coach too. Just
15th in the nation right now, taking Tennessee to the wire. That's not going to be an easy game. That's why I'm picking 4. I think 4 is still going to be us having to steal one.
Yeah.
I wish I could say 5. I wish I could say 9. I want to say 9, but obviously, it's not how the vibes are right now on the program.
Yeah, I think you get one of the Oklahoma or Missouri games on the road. I think we handle business with Vandy, South Carolina, and then I think they find a way to steal one of those Bama, Tennessee, or Auburn.
Yeah, I think they'll probably win the Vandy, Texas, South Carolina, and LSU. If I had to pick my 4, that would be the 4 that I'd probably pick. But again, look at my record on the season. I think I'm 12-10 picking these games right now. So obviously, don't listen to me and take
We're gonna
what I
have to. You're gonna have to stop putting the records on our prediction cards.
It's got to stay up there. People have to know. Hey, don't bet who I picked to win the game. Ask me for my pregame parlay because lately I've been hitting on some of those.
Those you have. There's been some good ones.
All right, BB, and that's going to be all for us here. Cats Talk Podcast here. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, X, TikTok, Amazon Music, YouTube, anywhere you can get your stuff at. We're there. Go Big Blue. Let's get a win on Saturday.
Go Big Blue.